Hello， 各位观众朋友，大家好，我是杰西哥。那延续上一集，我们讲到 CGO 的观念。那这一集呢，我们要跟各位谈一下 Facebook 脸书的创办人 Mark Zuckerberg 接受 Y-Combinator 的访问的时候，他也提到了有关于如何用成长骇客的方法来帮助脸书在初期获得了快速的增长，而不是用传统的行销方式。让我们看一下他怎么说这一部分。好 ，Let's go。
Welcome to How to Build the Future. Today our guest is Mark Zuckerberg. Mark, you have built one of the most influential companies in the history of the world, so we are especially excited that you are here.
I'm not sure where to go from.
Yes, so I want to talk about one of the most common questions we get from people building products is how to decide what to build, how to figure out when to bet the company, how to do something totally new.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that Facebook has done incredibly well is figure out what to build and build this repeated innovation culture, which I think is like the hardest thing to do in business. So how have you done that, and how do you advise other people to do the same?
I think the key is building a company which is focused on learning as quickly as possible. Right? Companies are learning organisms, and you can make decisions that either make it so that you learn faster or you learn slower. And in a lot of ways, building a company is like following the scientific method, right? You try a bunch of different hypotheses, and if you set up the experiments well, then you kind of learn what to do. And I think that's an important philosophy. So there are all these different decisions that we make inside the company, everything down to really empowering individual engineers. We invest in this huge testing framework, right? At any given point in time, there's not just one version of Facebook running in the world, right? There's probably tens of thousands of versions running because engineers here have the power to try out an idea and ship it to maybe 10,000 people or 100,000 people, and then they get a readout on how that version of what they did, whether it was a change to show better content in newsfeed or UI change or some new feature, they get a readout on how that version performed compared to the baseline version of Facebook that we have on everything that we care about, how connected people are, how much people are sharing and how much they say that they're finding meaningful content, business metrics like how much revenue we make and engagement of the overall community. And by running tens of thousands of different experiments and putting the power in people's hands to try all these different things, you can imagine we just make so much more progress than we could if every change had to be approved by me, right? Or every idea had to come from management. So I do think that there's something very deep about building this, learning culture and moving quickly towards that just helps you get ahead over time.
那第一段 Y-Combinator 的访问者问到这个 FB 的 CEO Mark Zuckerberg 如何打造一款受欢迎的产品，以及如何决定建构哪些功能。好，那 Mark 在底下很简短的说了他的观点。第一个，他觉得最重要的是要有一个 team 啊，这个 team 必须要有快速学习的文化 ，fast learning。他在影片中有提到。他必须从失败当中不断的去学习哪些是对的方向，哪些是错的方向，哪些是顾客或使用者喜欢的功能，哪些并不是啊。你必须从快速的实验当中、测试当中来学习到这些面向。所以呢，他第二个就是提到了这个部分哦，就是用科学的方法进行大量的实验 experiments。唯有透过大量的实验，类似 A/B test 或相关的测试，你才能得到说哪些是顾客真正想要的功能，哪些并不是啊。那持续的进行修正。好，那第三点就是延续 experiment。FB 早期其实有好多版本同时进行用户测试，然后透过测试去了解各位的喜好。相信各位如果有在用脸书的人也知道，它最近其实整个首页的这个 layout 也才经过改版，相信各位也都有经验。它中间有先把两版同时并行，然后让新的用户去体验它新的版本跟旧的版本，然后持续的改善。我记得好像持续进行了半年或1年之后，才把原来旧大家比较熟悉的 layout 给换掉，换成现在最新的版本。所以即使到现在已经2020、2021，它也是持续在做这样子多版本测试的功能。他们持续的演进他们的产品，从他们创办公司开始到建立 growth team， 到现在他们持续都在做这样的工作。好，那最重要的下面一个就是你怎么知道测试的结果是好的还是不好的？他这边有提到说他会明确的制定 business metrics 商业的指标 好，那从商业的指标跟测试来做搭配，看什么样的商业指标实际上在测试之后有朝他们原来的假设来进行迈进。好，那如果他们假设是对的，他们就会往那原来假设的功能持续进行修正，因为这些假设的功能可能就是用户所喜欢的功能。最后一点，他也讲到一个非常重要的点，就是当 Facebook 他在做功能改进的时候，并不是 Mark 自己下来说我觉得用户需要哪些功能。我们在台湾一些比较传统企业，其实很多产品的功能都是老板自己当大 PM 下来跟所有人讲说，我觉得应该接下一代的产品要哪些功能啊？其实这一部分其实 Mark 本身并不认同这样的概念，他认为所有的功能必须要 empower 员工，但是并不是 empower 一个你信任的人，或是你觉得他很厉害的人，而是就像前面几点讲的，你必须从大量的实验当中去测试到底用户真正喜欢的是什么。是用户告诉你答案，并不是老板或是高阶主管来做决定。好，以上就是第一部分 Mark Zuckerberg 在接受访问的时候来解释说，他当初在 Facebook 怎么去打造一款受欢迎的产品，以及在这个产品里面要做哪些功能，这是他的5个最基本的答案。那我这边就用5个英文字母来当做 keyword。第一个就是 growth team， 那第二个 keyword 就是 experiments， 第三个是 testing，第4个 matches， 第5个 empower。 透过这5个重要的关键字，可以帮助你有效的打造一款受欢迎的产品。这些产品在功能未来持续演进的过程中，都能持续跟你的顾客或使用者保持互动，维持他们良好的体验。
Speaking of growing, one thing I heard you say years ago is that one of the best things Facebook had done was invent the idea of a growth group. And so this is something now that I've heard a lot of founders ask about. Could you tell us, is that still something you recommend people running companies put in place, and how Facebook's worked in the early days?
So making it so we could grow faster was, I think, the most important product feature that we ended up building for Facebook. And, the traditional approach to growing and marketing is, you have a communications group or you have a marketing team and you buy ads. And, I think that there's sometimes there's a place for that, especially when you're trying to communicate something and get a message out. But if you're actually trying to grow a product, I think often the best levers for doing that are within the product themselves, and getting people in your community who enjoy what you're doing to evangelize that to their friends and getting that to happen efficiently as possible. So, there's no magic in the growth group that we built that other people can't replicate. It's just being very rigorous with data, investing in data infrastructure, so that way you can process all these different experiments and learn what people are trying to tell you, and then go invest engineering and actually trying to grow the community, because I think that's the most important feature for a lot of networks.
And can you tell how much of an impact that group had on the growth rate of Facebook?
Yeah, I think it's, overall, I think it's been very big. I don't have a number off the top of my head, but I mean, even just looking at, some of these specific features that we've built, like people you may know, right? Which is, one of the important things, right? Again, if you're, a social product isn't that useful if you're not connected to other people when you're using it. So, helping you go from signing up for Facebook to connecting to the people that you care about most is probably one of the most important things that we can do.
好，那接下来第2题，这 Y-Combinator 的访问者问了这个 Mark 下一个问题，就是 Facebook 在2010年成立一个新的团队，帮助他整个产品做快速的增长，叫 Growth Team。那这个部分是当初在 Facebook 会员成长到一部分之后，发觉了成长陷入了一些瓶颈啊，所以他当初就在大家的建议下，先从一支 Growth Team 开始建立起。那后来他的影片中也说，他认为对 Facebook 成长的帮助非常大，所以访问者进一步的问一下这个 Mark， 那他的成长team大概是怎么运作的？希望可以让其他矽谷的新创团队或是创办人来学习。好，那 Mark 首先就讲到我们传统讲的 outbound marketing 就是买广告这个事情。大家最简单过去想要成长的方式，就是认为就是 awareness 就是用买广告产生流量。但是 Mark 在影片中有提到，他觉得用 outbound marketing 或买广告 buy ad 这个方式比较适合在产品成熟的阶段，你需要跟更大量的用户来沟通。那如果你产品是在初期的阶段，那他建议是怎么做呢？就像我们前面影片第1段所讲到的，他在早期的阶段建议比较好的方式是透过大量的实验跟测试，然后把你认为 会刺激用户使用你产品成长的因子，把它做在产品当中，就是我第二点这边列的，大家比较好的方式把成长直接做在产品当中，然后透过不断的测试，不断的养社群，我们后面会讲到哈，就是把做在产品之中，你并不知道你的假设是不是 OK 啊，所以你就必须发展一个社群啊，那跟这些社群保持持续的沟通，尤其我们在成长骇客提到，第一群的 Power User 或 Heavy User 是非常重要的一群人，因为他们是第一群人对你产品有高度兴趣的人，所以你必须有一个类似群组去跟这些人把你产品的新功能进行推广啊。那即使像 Facebook 现在已经全球好几亿人在用了，他们在做新版本推出的时候还是维持这样的功能啊，必须随时有多版本演进。刚刚在前一支影片也讲了啊，那他会去从一些数据当中、一些指标当中去了解什么功能对客户造成的粘性比较强啊。所以我们曾经在 Google Analytics 4提到，他现在有把 MAU、DAU 这些粘性的数字摆到他的分析软体当中，也是让所有在做产品的人可以知道说，什么样的功能是使用者觉得比较粘性的，什么样的功能使用者可能不是这么喜欢啊，那都是可以从你这些数据分析软体当中得到你要的答案。好，那第三个就是下一个第四部分呢，就是我刚才前一个讲的，你必须要有一个数据分析的平台。好，那这东西可以是 Google Analytics， 也可以是 Customer Data Platform 所谓的 CDP 啊，或是 DMP 等等啊，就是我们希望把所有的数据收集在一起，然后把顾客各个面向的浏览行为或是这个使用行为集中在一起，然后甚至他线下的行为，如果能把它们全部做大量的集中，然后做分析，让你更容易去收集到顾客的 intention 或他们想要的是什么，那你可以根据他们的行为表现或是他们的喜好来打造相关的产品，实现成长，好，往他们喜欢的面向持续迈进。好，那最后一个部分呢，就是产品，我们这边当然讲是软体产品了，但是我们讲其他大部分产品其实也是可以应用这个方式，你必须要有一个 iteration 迭代的功能，也就是当消费者告诉你他想要什么之后，你产品必须慢慢的往这个消费者想要的方式迈进，而不是你专注在原始研发或者技术的面向去一直做你想做的东西，或者现在去追逐最新的技术。实际上当你有了数据，你有了客户的告诉你的东西，你就必须把你下一代产品的功能开在那个顾客想要去的方式，然后持续的推出新的功能啊，那把这新功能在你刚才之前经营的顾客社群跟他们沟通，所以我们知道这是永无止境的一个 iteration， 一个迭代的发展啊。所以以上呢，大概就是 Mark Zuckerberg 在这个访谈当中告诉 Y-Combinator 他过去怎么把 Facebook 脸书打造成一个现在全球几亿人的产品，主要并不是透过广告的方式来实现，而是透过不断的做产品的迭代实验与用户沟通来实现这个最终几亿用户的目标。那希望这支影片呢，也能让各位观众有所理解，如何利用成长骇客的方式帮助你在公司里面的产品实现增长，或是业绩实现增长。好，那今天我们这一集就讲到这边，谢谢各位，拜拜。